I will not soon forget the Christian woman who once told me, "You can't save a Mormon." And I suppose that she was right, but at the same time she was dead wrong, because I was trying to get her and some other people involved in outreach to the Mormon people. And when she said, "You can't save a Mormon," what she really meant, what she really did, was she limited Christ. You see, I can't save anyone. Neither can you, neither can anyone else, but Jesus. With God, all things are possible. And so it becomes very frustrating, and perhaps what she said came out of her frustration, having tried to reach out to the Mormons and failed. My last episode, which I called Preaching the Gospel at a Mormon Church, in that episode I discussed an event. I was visiting a Mormon ward, and while I was there, I began a discussion with a man about the gospel. Now, while this discussion was in process, 3 men in suits, they looked very distinguished. They came up and they listened. I presume that they were the ward bishop and his 2 counselors. My discussion involved contrasting the biblical gospel, which we find in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1 through 4, and the Mormon definition, which is altogether different. When we were done with the contrast between these 2 definitions, I asked that man several questions that he could not answer. And these 3 men listened as the man was stumped, unable to answer. I then encouraged him. I said, "Please don't believe me or reject me, but test me. Open the Bible and test my own words." When I finally disengaged with that single man and turned to the 3, they looked at me. They didn't say a word. They turned their backs and they walked away. I found this fascinating, but even more so when I was reading in Acts 24 recently. Verse 25 is incredible. It's about when Paul was having to defend himself before the Roman governor Felix. And Paul taught him the truth. He taught him the gospel. He showed him the gospel light. Felix heard everything he needed in order to make a decision and be saved. But instead of that, it says that Felix became frightened. Some translations say he trembled. He feared. Whatever. Felix was suddenly very, very uncomfortable, to the degree that crazy man sent Paul away. He sent Paul away and put off making a saving decision. He delayed the opportunity to be saved. Now, as far as we know, and I don't know for sure, the Bible doesn't say one way or another, but as far as we know, Felix never made that decision to be saved with Christ. And if that is the case, then Felix even now is being tormented in hell. I am so sad to see the Mormon people, one after another, 10, 50, 100, 1,000 of them, I don't even know how many I've spoken with, to see them run away or send me away, but do whatever they can to disengage, to separate themselves. They feel uncomfortable. They can't answer. They know that their gospel is corrupt. They see the truth of the Bible, and they walk away. I don't understand it. It breaks my heart. But here's a little bit of encouragement for you. I suppose maybe Paul was discouraged too when he tried to get Felix to understand, and instead Felix sent him away. I suppose that hurt Paul. But consider this. We are not called to save the Felixes of this world. We are not called to work out their salvation. We are called simply to plant a seed. Now, we plant that seed. Paul planted a seed in Felix. I believe I planted a seed in 3 members of the church, 3 members who are leaders in the Mormon church at this Mormon ward. I believe the seed was planted, and that is what we are called to do. And as an evangelist, I believe that we have satisfied the demands that God has, that He has set for us. When people hear the gospel and then choose to accept it or reject it. Love it, hate it, that's on them. We have done our part. And that makes me very grateful that God will pick up where I leave off, that God will save where I can't. And perhaps Felix did choose. Perhaps he is saved. Maybe one day I can meet him in heaven. That would be awesome. But until then, I'll see you next week.